Welcome to another voltiaudio one-take video, part 3 today of the Volti Klipsch series. And today we are talking drivers, woofers, mid-drivers, tweeters, crossovers, all that good stuff. You know, you really got to dig into speakers if you want to see how they're being made. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you some of the differences here. Let's start right out with Klipsch Cornwall 4 crossover. There's 14 components kind of crammed together on that board. Sandcast resistors, kind of nasty. I think that's a 16 gauge woofer inductor. And I don't know what these are. These must be, I don't know, smaller gauge, tiny. That's for the mid-range and tweeter. This is an iron core inductor. That is really not a very good choice these days for building high quality stuff. It would be considered low quality. So you can't tell a capacitor by looking at it whether it's high quality or not, but you can assume that when a company uses that and that's probably about the same. Wiring looks okay to me. It has to be copper, right? I mean, they're not using aluminum, are they? That's got to be copper. I couldn't see it anywhere, so I didn't know, and it didn't say it on it anywhere. It is 14 gauge. Looks pretty nice. Here's the input plate. I'm guessing these things are steel. And binding posts have metal caps on them. They're pretty decent. These feel like steel to me, though. Does anybody know what those are made out of? I haven't had time to research it, but if those jumpers are steel and you have these speakers, you want to take those out and put copper wire between there instead. That's not good. If those are steel, that is not good. Yeah, so PCB construction. Doesn't really get me too excited, I gotta tell you. That is definitely not my style. So what is my style? Well, hand-built, point-to-point wiring, really good connections between all the parts, really high quality parts on wooden boards. This is a Lucera crossover. I didn't have any Raz crossovers on the shelf, so I grabbed a Lucera. And they're built pretty much the same way, same type of components. There's 4 pieces, as you can see. It has the input plate. This is the resistor plate, goes on the back of the speaker. Here's your mid-tweeter filters, and then here's your woofer filters. And I do like to separate the mid-tweet from the woofer components, keep any interference down between the two. Like I said, very high quality parts. This is a air core inductor, 12 gauge for the woofer. That is a Solon inductor. I use Jansen capacitors. I really like them a lot. I've compared them to other capacitors. I only found one other capacitor that I thought sounded possibly, maybe a tiny bit better, possibly, but costs, I don't know, it costs 10 times as much. It was crazy price. So the Jansen is a really good choice for a capacitor. And it's available, really easy to get. You know, when you're building products, you've got to have good suppliers. Check that out. That is a copper barrel that has been crimped. So those wires are mechanically crimped together first and then backed up with solder. Something that I was told about a long time ago, but took me well, it took me until 3 years ago before I realized that, hey, you know, they were right. Mechanical connections are better. It actually sounds better. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If you've got extra pieces that are making the connections, like spades, screws, binding screws screwing down the spade connector, barrier strips, those are terrible because barrier strips have a metal plate, so the whole signal goes through the metal plate. It's probably made of steel. Things like that. These little details make a difference on quality of sound. Check out our jumpers, our Triode Wire Labs speaker cable. That's a really high quality stranded copper wire. By the way, try this out. This is interesting. If you plug your amplifier, the speaker wire from the amplifier to the low, and then listen, and then plug that wire into the mid-high and listen, you'll notice a difference actually in sound between plugging into the low and the mid-high. And if that right there is a steel strap between the two, jumper, you're gonna hear a huge difference. That's not good if that's steel. I think I already said that. All right, so resistors. This is a nice feature. My customers really like this. You're able to adjust the output level of the mid-range and the tweeter independently of the woofer on Volti speakers very easily by replacing resistors with different ones. And on pretty much all speakers, especially horn speakers, Klipsch speakers, the mid-range and tweeters are much higher in sensitivity than the woofers and do need to be attenuated down just normally through the design so that they balance out with the woofers. On the Klipsch products, they're fixed. You don't have the ability to change that, or at least not change it easily. And so that's something that we've been doing for a very long time. Our customers really appreciate that. They don't always change from the factory setting, but it's there if you need to. So what do you think? I think that's a very high quality crossover, probably near the top of the range in terms of worldwide quality. And this is probably not the worst crossover in the world in the Cornwall, but it's certainly not very good either. I think it's pretty sad actually. Anyway, you want a better sounding Cornwall? Change that. All right, so tweeters, you're not going to really tell that the tweeter on the right is better than the tweeter on the left or vice versa. By looking at them, you have to listen to these things and test them. It's not like crossovers. We can tell by looking at crossover parts, but you can't tell by looking at tweeters and mid-drivers. But the one on the right is from the Cornwall, one on the left is from the Raz. The Cornwall and Forte tweeters, which are the same, sound very good to me actually. It's much better than the old Klipsch tweeters used to be. The extensions to about 14 kilohertz on this Klipsch tweeter before it rolls off. And that's really plenty high enough for most of us. The Raz tweeter is an anomaly. It's one of the very few tweeters that I have run across. I have to buy and test many drivers in order to find the gems in the lineups from these companies. And that one's a gem. This one goes all the way to 20 kilohertz, and it does so by rising in output as the frequency goes up to 20 kilohertz. A very unusual tweeter, and I really like that sound. I have discovered a few tweeters over the years that do that, and they are all in my speakers. And so when you get a voltiaudio speaker, you get really good extension, and you get an air, if you will, a smoothness to the tweeter that you don't hear in very many high sensitivity tweeters on the market. All right, let's talk mid-range. This is the mid-range driver in the Cornwall and the Forte. They use the same one. Looks like a decent driver to me. That is a polyamide diaphragm. When it comes to mid-range drivers, it's really the diaphragm that's going to give you the voicing or the character of it. And polyamide is one of those fairly new materials. I don't really know what it is, to be honest. I just think it's some hybrid material. So I think maybe plastic cloth. I don't really know if that's a good way to describe it. It's how my brain thinks of it. It's not a cloth like a phenolic diaphragm, and it's not a metal diaphragm. And it's definitely got some sort of plastic element to it. But I think they're pretty cool. The Klipsch mid-range, however, is not sounding great to me. So I think there are probably higher quality polyamide diaphragmed drivers on the market. And one of them is right here in the Raz mid-range. And another huge thing here is that this Raz, like all of my speakers, has a mid-range with a 2-inch throat on the horn, and the driver's 2-inch outlet. And that is, if you talk about two identical or two very similarly designed mid-range horns, and one sounds a lot different than the other, the number one thing that would be causing that would be size of the throat. And then the next thing would be the shallowness or deepness of the horn pathway. And then third on my list, I think, would be the shape of the horn. And then, lastly would be the material it's made out of. But horn lenses do sound different from one another. I may do a video coming up where I use my mouth and speak through the throats of these horns. I think it's a good way to actually, it's a crude first step when evaluating way to hear the character of a mid-range horn. And it's very simple, you just simply speak through it and you can really hear it. But larger throat horn like that, 2-inch throat like the Raz has, huge difference in the characteristics of the horn lens sound as compared to the Klipsch mid-range. And I do think that the main reason that the Klipsch mid-range sounds a bit hard and colored to me has to do with this throat size. Klipsch is very stubborn about changing that. Maybe someday they'll get it figured out. It's just not that hard. Make the throat bigger, all of a sudden things get a lot more effortless and just a lot easier to live with. In the mid-range, so this is the Forte mid-range, same driver, same type of horn, just a smaller horn. Why did the Forte sound so crappy to me in the mid-range? It was just annoying listening to it. The Cornwall wasn't like that at all. And when I did my measurements, the Cornwall looked smooth through the mid-range and the Forte did not. It had this nasty peak at 1100 hertz. It makes me think, I guess the more I think about it, it makes me think that I wonder if something was wrong with that one that I tested. And so I am going to test the other Forte that I've taken apart. I'm going to get that back together and I'm going to test it as well. And I am also going to take the mid-range driver from a Cornwall and put it on, it's the same driver, but I'm going to put it on this Forte horn and test it just to be sure that I don't have a problem with the drivers in that pair of Fortes. If at that point I still see the same annoying peak in the mid-range, then I'm going to assume that that's just the way Klipsch left it. And that's pretty sad because it's really bad. I could not live with Forte 4. No way. I could live with Cornwalls for a while. I would want to, well, I'd want to do a lot of things to the Cornwalls, but they're decent. I told you before, it's a well-balanced speaker. It's got all the attributes we love about horns, but it does have vices. It has things that are bothersome to me, and it's just cheap parts is all it is. So, can you tell one woofer quality from another by looking at it? Well, maybe. This is the woofer from the Raz. You can see that's got a cast frame, and then the woofers in the Klipsch products, this Forte and the Cornwall, are stamped frame. Generally speaking, stamped frame woofers are considered lower in quality than cast frame, but that certainly doesn't tell the whole story. So you really can't do a lot of evaluating just sitting here looking at it. But I can tell you from listening and from testing that the Raz is the best of these three in terms of bass quality. The Raz extend just as deep as the Cornwalls do, and both the Cornwall and the Raz extend deeper than the Forte by a considerable amount. And also just the quality of the Raz bass is very, very good. I found the Cornwall was good too, but it was a bit lean for me. It actually just really didn't give me the punch, and it just didn't have the character that I like as much as the Raz. The Raz is just it's just a terrific speaker. By the way, this 12-inch driver that's in the Forte 4 is the same one they're putting in the new Klipsch La Scala. They've gone from 15 to 12-inch. And I know exactly why they did it. And if you'd like to know, send me an email, I'll tell you. I might do a video on it someday. So there you go. That's the parts. What do you think? Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. You know, I do really appreciate you guys, your support and your comments that you leave. And I'm so surprised at the amount of views that my videos are getting. I just didn't think anybody really cared about this stuff. But I'm thrilled to have you here. And I'll keep doing these videos. I'm going to keep doing them every week. So if you're interested, hit that subscribe button. If you think I deserve it, hit the thumbs up button. Next video in this series, part 4, it's going to be the summary video. I'm going to wrap it up. And I've had a blast doing this stuff, man. I've been playing hooky from work with this. And I got to get back to work. I got so much to do. It's crazy. But anyway, again, appreciate you, and I appreciate you, tolerating my one-take video thing. This I just cannot spend the time to edit videos. I just don't have the time for it. So I just got to come in quickly, do a video, put it up on YouTube, and let you in on a little bit of what we're doing here at Volti Audio. So until next time, trust your ears and have fun.